We're returning to the wide open expanses of the US on today's episode of the Producer Podcast as our Film Office series continues. Today, I'm sitting down with producer Steve Graham, who also represents the New Mexico Film Office, as I talk with him about his producer journey, advantages to filming in New Mexico, their state incentive, and much more. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you, Steve, for taking the time to come on to the Producer Podcast today.
Of course. Yeah, it's great to see you and hear you.
So I will admit, I've pretty much spent no time in New Mexico myself. I think I've maybe driven through it briefly
Uh-huh.
on like one trip. So I know like nothing about your state. So I'm really looking forward to learning more, even just about the state in general here today.
We get that a lot. We get the drive-through. We get confused with other southwestern states
Hmm.
because it's sort of on a drive like that, it becomes just the scenery kind of blends in. But I think if you come back, I think you'll recognize it. We're called the land of enchantment, and that's not by accident because it's very enchanting here. There's the landscape is amazing, the people are great, and yeah, if you spend any time, you won't forget it.
Cool. So to start, maybe just take a little bit to tell us some about yourself and kind of how you came to be working at the state film office and what kind of your role is there.
Sure. Well, my background is in producing, mostly television production. Uh, First as a line producer, and then as a producer and a writer and a director, and a DG at UPM. So that's been my career. I've been producing for about 15 years, but I've been in the industry for 25-ish. I've worked on my first film in 1999 in the camera department, and was not particularly good at that, but loved it. Really enjoyed that part of it, and worked some in LA and in Nevada, and then I took a job at the Screen Actors Guild, which was just SAG at that point before the merger, and worked in a number of places there within SAG, first in the communications department, then IT, and then new media and online casting. And then began producing independent, mostly direct to video films, low budget films, and immediately worked on a television show with a friend who was producing it. And then we became business partners and produced Z Nation for Sci-Fi Channel, and then sort of a prequel to that for Netflix called Black Summer. And then I grew up in New Mexico, and so I had been in LA for about 20 years, and my wife got an opportunity back here, and I was working kind of out of LA anyway.
Hmm.
So it was like, well, yeah, New Mexico has a great film industry, had been growing. So we moved in 2017, moved back, and produced a couple of films here, and worked on Walker Independence, which was a series for CW, for CBS, and have been doing that here in Santa Fe. So when this opportunity came up, I had been working with the film office on all of those projects, and New Mexico has a great incentive. It also has a really strong crew base. And then, there's reasons that Westerns get shot here, which is what I was on most recently. And but I made friends with the film office, and love the work that they're doing, and the opportunity came up here, and seemed like a good chance to further what the film office does with our incentives, and growing the local film industry, which is something that I'm very passionate about, is to get above the line training and get films made in New Mexico by New Mexicans. But we also want Iowans to come, and LA and New York. We want everyone to come make their movies here, because we're good at it, and it's fun, and it looks like no other place in the world. So that's the That's the 25 cent, or maybe the 50 cent version.
Okay. So I do have to ask, especially just since I'm a producer too, but like you've done so much over the industry in your time in it, but like what kind of got you interested in producing?
That's interesting. Well, growing up, I was always a film. I liked movies. I wouldn't. I'm not. I don't come from the sort of film school background of studying it so much. I worked at a video store in my teens and in college, so that'll date me. But also, I mean, you have suddenly you have access to like what felt like every film made. It wasn't, but you
Mhm.
have access to a ton of movies, and you can watch them anytime you want. You're encouraged to do that, and they didn't really have film studies at. I went to school here in New Mexico at New Mexico State, and so I studied journalism there. But I had some buddies that were taking film classes, and it suddenly dawned on me that you can actually people make a living doing this sort of thing. And so that was always sort of in the back of my head. And my brother was in the camera department for mostly television, and that's how I was exposed to that. um, but the producing side of it really came, I mean, like everybody, I was like, oh, I want to be a director, right? I want to
Mhm.
write, I want to direct. But uh, that sort of faded away when I started producing. It came back when I got the opportunity to direct, and that was really fun. But um, I tell this story about I mean I had already taken the job, but we were in over our heads. I'll admit that on the first season of Z Nation. But there was a moment in the middle of the chaos. We were shooting in a sanitation plant, and we had several units spread out over this place, and we had VFX there, and we had this giant swimming pool, and we were lowering someone into the pool in one of these hazmat suits, and it was super hot, and they couldn't breathe, and we had to break every 2 minutes, and the fan broke, and then the trusses weren't right, and I had like 15 people standing in line to there was some existential problem with every department that they were having problems with, and I just kind of I just started banging through it, and said do this for that, do that for that, and was very much in my element. And I realized, oh, this is a particular kind of sickness. I like I like solving problems, and every one of those was something I knew had a solution to. And so that's what keeps bringing me back to it, is that it's problem solving, and it's creative problem solving. And then if everything goes right, and sometimes even if it goes wrong, you get an amazing thing on the screen, and you get to, I did that, you get you get to own that. And that's just a super fun experience. It's not a desk job. Of course, I'm working kind of a desk job now, but it gets you out. It gets you working with creative people, and you're doing you're really tested every day. Every day is different. So that's what draws me to it. It's fun.
Yeah, no, that's cool to hear. And yeah, it is interesting because so many people think a producer is just like a desk person. And it's like, no, the amount of time you're on set or you're, running somewhere to do something, it's pretty crazy.
Well, and a lot of people, I mean, producer gets thrown around, and the name gets thrown around. There's a lot of different kinds of producers, and
Hmm.
that's a line producer type of position, but also hands-on creative producers have a very similar skill set. It's in a different realm, but they're solving problems, with the studio or with the writers or with the actors. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
a lot of fun.
Looking at New Mexico, and you kind of talked a little bit about this already, but I'd love to just hear like what are some of the, unique characteristics or aspects of the state that people can really take advantage of when they're shooting there.
First of all, our locations. I mean, a lot of films come here because they're either written for New Mexico, or they fit in sort of a Southwestern vibe. I think it's sort of a misconception maybe that people think of New Mexico as desert, and we certainly have that, but we also have mountains, lots of mountains. Santa Fe is a mountain town. We have lakes, we have deciduous forests, we have pine forests. We have urban areas, and we have cities and small towns and urban spaces, and so there's what you think of as New Mexico may or may not be what we offer, but it's the landscapes, I think, are what bring a lot of films here. It's
Mm-hmm.
unmistakable, the sky and the landscape in New Mexico. It's great for Westerns. It's great for road trips. It's great for, big wide vista types of movies, whether those are contemporary or period. But we also have sound stages. Netflix has a lot of soundstage space. There are 4 or 5 other sound stages in Albuquerque. I think there's 7 in Santa Fe, and we're adding another couple in Santa Fe, and we're building stages in Las Cruces. So that brings the stability of like series type work,
Mm-hmm.
where you can build a set and come back to it, week after week. And there's some backlot opportunities as well. So you can, we can double for Fallujah, or, in a very limited scope, a New York street, and other, things across the world. So I think that's unique. I think we cut across a lot of those looks. But it's also, the incentive can't be overstated. It's
Mm-hmm.
it starts at a 25% incentive and goes up to 40%.
Oh, wow.
So there's certain uplifts, like you start at 25. If you shoot in a qualified production facility, you get a 5% uplift. If you shoot outside of the Albuquerque and Santa Fe zone, you get an additional 10% uplift. And then there's some others, if it's a pilot, and there's a couple of other things. It maxes out at 40.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a very healthy incentive, and it's a tax rebate, so you don't have to sell it on the market like you do for 85 cents on the dollar in jurisdictions like Georgia or some of the others. It's if you don't have that tax liability, you actually get a check. So,
Okay.
and it covers anything that's done in New Mexico below the line, and some of the above the line costs as well. And all of cast. So it's it's pretty generous, and it gets turned around pretty quickly. The tax and revenue handles the incentive. They get they get 6 months to turn it around after you turn it in, after your last expenditure. So that's kind of up to production on how long it takes to, production has a year to turn their stuff in after the last expenditure.
Okay.
But, if you were super tight about it and buttoned everything up and submitted as soon as your expenditure was in, you can get your tax credit back in as little as 6 months. I think, it's probably more like 18 for the average independent.
Mm-hmm.
I need to run numbers on that and find out, but that's so anecdotally, that's what I hear. So that's faster than some other jurisdictions, and having a check in hand is a nice way to do it.
Definitely. Staying on the topic of the incentive here, like, what's your application process like? Is it year round? I know some states, there's only certain windows that you can apply in for it.
Yeah, it's year round, and it's no, California, I think, just announced their new list, and I think they do it every quarter or every 6 months now. No, ours is an open application process, and there's no lower limit, meaning you can do a $20,000 short if you want, and get incentivized for that, or you can do we'd love to have a $200 million series if you want to bring that here as well. But yeah, it's year round. We turn those applications around pretty quickly. We ask that you it needs to be in 30 days before you roll.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do some pre-planning, but you can turn it in as early as you want. But 30 days before principal photography, we need to have the application in. And it's a pretty straightforward application. It's an Excel document that we ask you to fill out that has, all the pertinent production info on it, and the script and the budget, and your anticipated incentive, what you would think that you would get back, calculations, how many people you're hiring. We want you to hire people that are in New Mexico. We understand that that's not always possible for 100% of the crew. So we ask you kind of what those numbers are going to look like. We want them to be, 85% of the people you hire should be in New Mexico. And we ask for, financial documents to show that you've got the money to make the movie. So it's fairly straightforward. We look through that stuff, and if there are any questions, we, just have a back and forth with you. We find that it's a lot of the same information you're filling out for the unions anyway. So,
Okay.
people will do it simultaneously with SAG and with IATSE, or depending on the kind of the type of production they're doing. And then we turn it around. We give you, basically it's a letter from us saying, yes, this looks like it passes muster, and for this budget, and that the incentive will be paid based on what you've submitted, what you've told us, and then you go make the movie. When it's done, when you've made that last expenditure, your accounting team then applies for the credit itself. And that goes through our office, but it goes to the taxation and revenue department here in New Mexico. And so they have there's wrap documents that you submit, but it's all very similar to what the registration process is. So, if you said, oh, we were going to hire, 70 people, but we hired 75, you just update all your numbers, the same type of information that you've been filling in.
Okay. Yeah. And then, because I know you said they have like a year to turn in stuff. When does that year, is that from the day that the production wraps filming, or when does that year timeline kick in?
The way the law reads is it's from the date of the last production expense.
Okay.
It has to be directly related to production. But it takes a few weeks to wrap on any production, and sometimes years, depending on what it looks like. But yeah, it's based on what the last invoice that comes in for that last expenditure, and it's dated from there, and you turn it in within a year of that.
Does the incentive include post-production? I know some places that can vary.
Yeah, everything. And in fact, the incentive, again, there's no floor to what you can apply for, but we'll do post only. So if you shot your film somewhere else and you want to come and hire your editor and your finishing team, your sound mixer and sound design and colorists and all of that, you can do that in New Mexico and get 25 to 40% back on it. So
okay, cool. Do you guys have any post houses?
We do, yeah. There are a couple of small ones, and that's something that we want to grow, and something that we're working on. I would say that there's a handful of experienced colorists in the state, and finishers, and we need to work on our sound finishing, sound mixing. I think there's a couple of places that are working on that and have hired people, and there are plans to have a pipeline from our universities to feed those, but that's something that we're working on. It's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, we got to get people. We have to get productions that are wanting to use post here, and then build up our crew. So that's going to be a focus for me and for our office is to grow post. I should point it out too. I know that you're primarily a film podcast, but we also incentivize video games. So if there are video game producers out there we offer the same incentives for work in that field. So
That's a realm that I know nothing about, other than they do crazy things nowadays with video
yeah,
games.
well, and the budgets rival, some of the big movies. So it's a big business. And I in post I should also touch on VFX. We do have we have a couple of VFX houses here and some talented freelancers as well. So that's another area that producers can use in New Mexico.
So then my other question on the incentive, because I know you said like small $20,000 projects can apply to it.
Yeah.
Um, is your incentive open at all to like commercial work, or is it strictly for narrative side?
It is. There are a few productions that don't qualify, like PSAs and print campaigns, trailers, promotional, web design and development, live events, and commercials that are only available on the client's own website. It has to be a commercial that you're placing out in the world. You're buying airtime for. That
Okay. So then I know you mentioned Westerns are a big thing out there.
Sure.
So I'm just curious because because I know in Arizona I've been to some of like the Western towns that they have
Yep.
that productions can come. Or does New Mexico have some sets and places like that?
We do, yeah. There are 5 in Santa Fe that have what you would think of as a traditional Western town, with the facades, and you ride through town on your horse, and there's a crossroads.
Mhm.
There's 5 of those in and around here. There are a couple that have been built and used around Albuquerque, but I don't know that they exist ongoing. Actually, I should find out, but I don't know. And then certainly Westerns have been shot in the southern part of the state as well. To my knowledge, there's not a standing Western town down there, but there's a ranch there's a few ranches that you can shoot on that sort of have that same feel. So yeah, we get our fair number of Westerns, and also period pieces that
Mhm.
were that are showing the landscape. I mean, Oppenheimer was a big one for us a couple of years ago, and News of the World with Tom Hanks before that, and some of those vistas and landscapes that you're not going to get anywhere else.
One question I had, like obviously I'm from Iowa, so like what would be some things that or pieces of advice you would give to people like me who don't live in New Mexico, don't know much about the state? Like, hey, if you are coming to make your next project here, like you should know this or understand this about us.
uh, well, in terms of what to know about us, I mean, I find the production environment very friendly here. We have a really solid crew base, and you can hire all of your keys and your designers in New Mexico. We have very experienced crew. I would recommend that you hire a local either line producer or UPM or even a production supervisor who knows the crew here and knows where to get the best hamburger and which places are open late after you wrap at 2 a.m.
Mhm.
The answer is very few, at least in Santa Fe. But having somebody who knows that stuff is super helpful. It's not required. We will work with anyone, but having a local producer is super helpful. I would say pay attention to the weather. We have better than 300 sunny days a year here. But we do have, especially in Santa Fe, it's less so in Albuquerque. We get snow,
Mhm.
and then in the spring we get wind. And so, kind of depending on what your exteriors are, you need to think about that. But it's pretty production friendly year round in terms of exterior shooting um, and availability of crew. So yeah, those were I think having a local expert's a good thing, and get a locations person who knows the area and can find um, often inexpensive places. I don't want to sell us out on that, but I would say that we have a lot of locations that have not been overshot. So
Okay.
you're not going to see them in anything else, but it also means that it's sometimes easier to make a deal there. So I think that's an advantage to us over, say, Los Angeles, where I've worked in LA where I had to carry money in my pocket to like pay the guys with the leaf blowers that they weren't actually working on landscapes. I'm not sure where the leaf blowers come from, but the $50 and they would go away. It's probably more than that nowadays, but
Mhm.
we don't have that. Neighborhoods are generally very happy to have productions in, and they're very helpful and tolerant of parking and production trucks and things like that. And so I think it's I love that. I love that sort of the hospitality that we have in the state already extends to productions, and in general are happy to have their neighbors working. It's a small town after all.
Yeah.
All of film is that way, but especially in New Mexico. And everybody knows somebody who works in the industry. So it's kind of
Mhm.
cool.
I'm curious just on the snow. Is there like a window? It's like usually for you guys, you're going to get your snow between here and here.
Yeah, I'd say, and again, this is in Santa Fe more than in Albuquerque. I would say there's only a few days a year that it sticks in Albuquerque and
Mhm.
sticks around for very long, typically. In Santa Fe, our ski resorts usually open around Thanksgiving, and they typically don't have enough snow to do that. That we did this year, weirdly, and then it hasn't snowed since. I'd say late December through like late February is sort of a window when it's possible. Um, but it's also unusual to have snow sticking on the ground for more than
Mhm.
a week in Santa Fe. But I've been shooting on a ranch before where it totally screwed up continuity because we shot the scene and then it snows overnight and you have to go out there with heaters and get rid of everything the next day. So it does happen, but I mean that happens
Mhm.
anywhere you get those kinds of vistas. I think you have to deal with that, and probably less so here. I think it'll snow, but it'll snow and melt, and you have a cover set and you go shoot there for a week and come back, and you're able to get the shot you need.
Looking, I guess, more specifically at the film office itself, like outside of the incentive, what are some of the other main ways the film office can help filmmakers on their projects?
Our main sort of job is to administer the incentive, so that's for sure. What we're focused on. It's customer service more than anything else. But one of the things that we do offer, especially if you haven't been here before and you're looking for locations, we have a locations database on our website, which is good, and we're improving. So it's be more useful. We have also a crew database. It's kind of the same thing there. We're undergoing an update on that. But if you're looking for local crew or even cast, you can find that on our website. We also, if you're looking for a particular, if you know what you need, if you have the script and you're say, I need an airport and then a diner and then a hospital. Again, you can do your own searches, but we'll also help you out with that. If it's, once you have determined that you're coming here and you just need some help, it's pre-location scouting really is what it is.
Okay.
We'll have somebody look through our existing info and put a package together for you, which can be sometimes make the difference between coming here or not. So that's what we like to do that.
Hmm.
We also, almost everyone in the office here has been here for a while, and we know the ins and outs and can kind of, answer a lot of questions and help you with that. We also, and this is sort of an ancillary help to productions, but we have training programs so that we're not only helping with entry level positions, doing PA training and things like that, but also getting people trained up so that you have an experienced and skilled crew base to choose from. So that's something that we work on. I should mention too, it's another part of the incentive. There are two other programs that we do. One is called the Film Crew Advancement Program.
Okay.
Basically, it allows for, if the production is willing to advance someone in their role, meaning if you take an electrician and you are willing to hire them as best boy, for instance, they have to have a mentor. They have to have someone that will, show them the ropes. But we will help. We will subsidize their pay while they're being trained. So that's called FCAP, or the Film Crew Advancement Program. And you might have 5 or 6 crew members on the crew that would like to move up, and if you provide that opportunity for them, we know that's you're taking a flyer on somebody, putting them in a role that they are experienced enough for but haven't had the opportunity to do. If you're willing to move them up, then we'll help pay them, so that incentivize you to do that. And what that does is, it gives our crew an opportunity to learn and to be better.
Right.
But that's definitely a subsidy for production, and that's helpful for production. We also have a smaller non-resident crew exemption. So if you have to bring your DP, for instance, or there's maybe a designer who had production designer or costume, or someone that had been involved from the beginning, you want to bring them with you, then as long as the production meets certain criteria, we can subsidize a portion of their, you can get, instead of 25%, you get 15% on those crew members.
I think you're the first state that I've heard has had that film crew advancement program, at least that I've talked to, but that's really cool. Like, I wish if my state had something like that, because I would definitely try to take advantage of it.
It's been very popular, and I think it's also been a net gain for both the state and for productions, because when that person moves up, then that allows somebody else to move into their position, and it grows our overall crew base and our overall experience, and encourages productions to use a local person rather than bringing somebody in all the time. And again, that's better for all of us, so it's cool.
Yeah. So I do gotta ask, on your crew front, what does New Mexico have when it comes to the production accounting side of things? Because I know some of the other states I've talked to, that's been an area where they're like, yeah, we struggle, or we would love to get more people trained. So I'm just curious, are you kind of that same way, or do you have a pretty decent pool?
Well, and I'm of two minds about that. I will tell you, industry-wide, accounting is an area where we need more people. I've seen it on the studio side, and I've seen it on the local side as well. I will say that New Mexico did accounting training. I think it was 2 years ago now.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look, but we saw that need and developed a class, and did a class for. It was both for new people, but also I believe it was sort of aimed at moving people who knew accounting but wanted to learn about production accounting, and move them over into that. And so we I don't know if to say graduated, we certified, I guess, a number of accountants through that program. And that's something that we're looking at continuing. I will say anecdotally, I had, just because I was on the producing side just a few months ago, that it's less acute than it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I was have been pleasantly surprised at the accounting folks that we have in New Mexico, and the ability to fill those roles. So whether that was a direct effect of the training, I don't know, but there are small businesses that have cropped up that are geared at production accounting, and the training is happening that right there too. And I know that we've run accountants through our FCAP program as well. So I think that's probably grown that pool as well. but yeah, I have felt exactly that pain.
Uh-huh.
I mean, over quarantine, that was super hard. I think I don't know what happened. I think a lot of folks maybe left the industry,
Hmm.
and I know even in the big payroll houses, the expertise had sort of dwindled. And it was rough to get skilled people to come back and do this. So
Yeah, definitely. So then, do you find working with filmmakers through the film office, are there either like common misconceptions the filmmakers have about the film office, or maybe things they just forget? Oh, yeah, I can talk to the film office about this aspect of production.
I would say there are things like we'll get a call, for instance, for permitting, and it's
Hmm.
really not something that we administer. That happens on a local level, unless it's like a state road or something like that, and then it's the DOT and other agencies that handle that. So that might be one area, but we also work with it a lot and know exactly who to talk to. We rely very heavily on our local film offices as well. So
Okay.
I'm with the state film office, but Albuquerque and Cindy McCrossan there in Albuquerque, and Jen Labar Tapia in Santa Fe, and Andrew Hara down in Las Cruces, all manage their local film offices. They are very much the place where you can call and say, "Hey, I need a last minute permit to shut down this neighborhood," or I need you have a recommendation of a water company, or where do I find what did we get? Oh, a safety, where do I get flag people for this, or how do I hire security? Those types of questions, they're much closer to the on the ground uh,
Right.
producers, and they do a great job, and they're very experienced and have a very deep toolbox to be able to help you with stuff. So and then we're backstop on that. We help with sort of any of the bigger issues that the producers may have.
One other question I have, even though I'm not a local to the state, but like, are there any unique programs or things that you guys do that are like solely for in-state
Hmm.
filmmakers?
It's something that we're growing. I would say there's a few programs that we offer to New Mexicans only. We worked with Stowe Story Labs, which is a national or international company based out of Vermont, and they do screenwriter intensives and workshops. We've done 3 of those here in New Mexico, and it's for New Mexicans. And there's in the past, we've had grants available for New Mexico filmmakers. There was one called the Pinto Grant, which was named after a legislator that gave small grants to locals that are working in film. We want to continue that. We're looking for a funding source to do that kind of thing. We've also we're hoping to reinstate something called the Governor's Cup, which it will be administered through an organization called the Media Arts Collective, uh,
Okay.
which I should mention too. Our Media Arts Collective is about training. It's about education. So we're building facilities in both Albuquerque and Las Cruces, and they will be doing film specific, craft specific training
Nice.
along with our higher ed organizations. So, but those are there will be a grant program that we're working on getting the funding for that will reinvigorate the Governor's Cup, and it's basically a grant to make your movie
Hmm.
on a small level. It's tens of thousands of dollars, not millions, but cool things come from that because
Hmm.
you've been working on a script for ever, and you just need a little push, and that those are the kinds of things that we want to do for local filmmakers. And we're looking for ways to encourage that in other manner. We have three film partners in New Mexico. We have Netflix and NBC Universal and 828 Productions. But two of those offer like shadowing opportunities, specifically NBC Universal. I know we've done with having a local director shadow on set. And so that's that type of thing we want to continue to do
Mm-hmm.
and do more of. So yeah, we're working to find ways to build the creative side of the business and internally.
Definitely. So then I have one last question for you, but I thought before I ask that, I would just throw out if there's anything that you maybe were thinking I would ask about that I didn't ask, or any final things you want to mention.
I think I would just wrap by saying that the incentive is the reason to come here, but our crew and our locations are the reason to stay. And I think you'll find it's a great place to make movies because it's the traffic's not bad, the air is clean, there's a lot of resources, there's people that know what they're doing, and there's a state and local governments that want you here and want to work with you and find ways for you to make movies. And New Mexico is a place that people come visit here for vacations, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's not a bad place to come and work. I would walk out onto set at 6:30 in the morning on a Western set, and the sun would be coming up down the middle of the road over the mountains, and I was like, this is not a bad place to work. This is a pretty great office to be in.
I bet. That
So
sounds great.
yeah.
So then my final question for you is just if people are interested or considering bringing their next project to you, how can they go about getting in touch with your film office?
I think the primary way is through our website. So nmfilm.com. And from there, you just go to the incentives tab, and that'll have an eligibility page, which is what I was just looking at, but also has under incentives has register your project. And so there's an email form on there if you have a specific question, or if you already know that you want to do it, you can fill out the form right there on the page. But yeah, if you have questions, email us. I think it's info@nmfilm.com. And we're happy to field questions or get on the phone with you and, help
Hmm.
navigate what, issues you may have.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode, but thank you once again, Steve, for taking the time to come on to the show today.
You bet. Very nice to meet you. And, you have an open invitation. I'll buy you a green enchilada here in Santa Fe if you come in.
All right, sounds good. On that note, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and X for lots more exciting content. While there, send us a message about what film office you'd like us to visit next. Until next time, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast, and thanks for listening.